Well, yes, that's
See, I'm good, Morris. I remember.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I give it to you. Have it.
You get conversations? You,
Yeah, I get
I
them.
find it in the shul when
I used to in the sponsor.
Uh-huh.
Every time it came out, I'd buy two boxes, but it doesn't seem to go so much anymore. So I stopped.
Yeah.
Did you pause the recording while it's recording?
No, that's okay. So you let it record. You mean we're gonna wait? Yeah, so I'm interested in it. I'll tell you what inspired me. I mean, we're in the middle of 75 right now. Not the middle, we're at the end of 75. I wanted to go forward, but I want to take a few minutes to talk about it because when Mars came over, my son Mars came over to me this Shabbat, and he said, this is I don't know what's the word you use, Mars.
What? I don't know. I said it. I think it's uh, something like groundbreaking. It changes the way that everything is looked at.
Right, right. And I really always looked at it that way. I looked at the whole awareness of what's going on in Seir Lazazel as a paradigm shift, as groundbreaking, and I knew it. I knew when I found it, I was very, very, very excited, right? And I guess that the reason when I got this article and I printed it, I don't usually print articles. I read it and I printed it, and I said because of how they're living in. That's this article, Morris, right? Right. That it's called the Haredi option. They're living in a they're ignorant. They're really ignorant people. They're not only not scholars. They're not Talmidei Chachamim. They don't know their material. They don't know anything. They're you call them. I don't even know what you call them. One of the persons over here said they're like leftists. They're extremists. They have very, very little understanding of anything. The war, the way they talk about the Israeli soldiers, the way they talk about Israel. They're Jews living in Israel, supported by the Israelis, and they make fun of them. And they make fun of the soldiers, and they think that they're the center of the world, and they think they're holding up the entire planet, and so on and so forth.
The world was made for me.
The world's exactly. So it's very sad. We know this. This is with, like you said, preaching to the choir, but he'll quote certain people and how they look at things and what they base their ideas on. And do you remember way back when people used to go on Saturday night to Miller's class? Remember? You used to get on a Saturday night. You used to see the people walking in the street.
Victor Miller.
Victor Miller, yeah. There were, yeah. How many people were going? How many people were going to that class? 250? No, a number like that, and saying things that
wasn't like
yeah,
wasn't like today's.
Yeah. So I'm a little emotional about it because sad to say, Alav Shalom, Rabbi Pear passed away, and we were so close. We were very close for many, many years till about 40 years, till the late 70s. I would say we were friendly.
Go to Arizona on a Saturday and see how many people go to Medjugorje.
I'm sure it's also. I'm sure it's also hundreds. Yeah.
No, but Amy, they're drawing out of 10 times the other people they used to draw.
Okay. Yeah. When he's drawing 200, it's like drawing 2,000 at that time. That's The community got bigger. But anyway, it got blacker. Yeah. So it made me think about what brought about the sharp division between me and my friends at that time. It was close. They were buddies. Sorry?
Went to Robert Miller's class.
Not really, but
After we split, I don't know what they did. We had very little connection to them throughout all that period because You have to remember at a certain point in time, they don't talk to you. You're
Remember this?
you're off limits.
Recollection.
Remember-
No, they just
It's taking a spiritual approach or an intellectual.
no, it's you're a picoros. You're you're a heretic. You're heretical and you're this. Yeah. So like that's all over. So they break off, they're no longer talking to you. They're no longer, you're not part of their world. They don't associate with you. There was a guy I went to in shul one time. He was related to me, and he wasn't even religious when I started to talk to him. He wasn't religious at all. And I told him at that time, a long time ago, I told him, I found some very interesting things. Why don't we? Because we ended up sitting next to each other or near each other and Friday night in Shai Sion for Shabbat, Friday, And I said, look, why don't you? I'll show you what I'm working on. I don't remember what it was. It was a long time. And I said, it's really, really, really good and really exciting. And I think it was the following week. I don't think it was on the spot. He said it. He said, I spoke to my Rebbe. I can't talk to you.
Oh,
I'm not allowed to talk to you. This is a guy that we grew up together. And he said, I can't talk to you because you're a heretic. So he didn't say those words to me. Yeah. And so I was going to say, so what are you afraid of? So like, I can't talk to you because you're going to say, words.
That makes sense.
Yeah. And of course, that is true, by the way. It wouldn't come crumbling down. It would. If he would listen, they have no defense. Their whole foundation is built on toothpicks, literally.
That's why they're insulated.
Yeah. They keep insulating themselves. So all of this is old news. This is nothing new. And so in any event, let's just talk for a couple of minutes about Kippur. Let's just let me read to you. I think I have open over here what I wrote, and so this thing is about 20 years old. This paper. So it says in Vayiqra. So I did a little a quick recap of Sefer Vayiqra, right? I said, maybe I should. 20 years old.
So talk to the rabbi already again.
Maybe I should share the screen 1 second, just 1 minute. Yeah. So it says, I'll do it fast. Sacrifices not for intentional sins, only voluntary, or for sins done inadvertently, unwillingly. See chapter 7. 2, consecration of Kohanim in the Mishkan. 3, the 8th-day dedication of the Mishkan. Then the death of Nadab and Abihu. Then purity laws, dietary laws, carcass impurity, sanctity of life. Then physical, 1 second, physical conditions and ritual purity, reverence for life, for Hashem's presence, ritual after childbirth, Brit Milah, Misorah, purification from skin diseases, and discharges from sexual organs. Sanctuary purification, national sin cleansing, spiritual renewal, Yom Kippur, Azazel ritual. Then, then centralization of sacrifice, elimination of polytheism, prohibition against Eid worship, chapter 17. Then family purity, conditions for retention of the land, sexual regulations, categorical imperatives written in the chapter 18. It's categorical, apodictic. Just you can't do, you're not allowed, not allowed. Then Kiddushim, the center of the holiness code, the 10 commandments in effect, right? And then sexual regulations, again, only there as case law, casuistic, if, when, penalties, if, right? Then when, and then penalty. And then laws of the Kohanim, no contact with the dead, marital restrictions, and physical requirements for service and sacred food. Can't be blemished, they can't blemish. 13 of the holidays. 14 collection of laws, the menorah, the showbread, and blasphemy. blasphemy is very interesting because we all, as you're here, Ronnie, correct? Ronnie Mizrahi. So
I'm here.
yeah, you see over there at that time, 20 years ago, it's called blasphemy, right? And
Yeah.
and think about how that split out into a major paper, right? Which we hopefully will get produced. Then Shevitah, the Obel, then the blessings and the curses, and then funding the sanctuary, which I say funding the sanctuary goes far beyond that when I talk about it in Mizmorim, in volume 1, where I show 14 and 53, and how there's a connection between what's written in the 27th chapter and what's written in Eob and what's written in the 55th Mizmor, all form they triangulate, they actually triangulate. It's very, very interesting. You see it in the book, it's there. So then I wrote, as a result of the actions of Aharon's sons, entry into the Kodesh HaKodeshim will require an Anan. Right?
Yes.
If you'll all turn to chapter 17, just so we see the words. But so we are in the list that I just now said that I called off, right? We're at the juncture where right after you have the dietary laws, the physical conditions, ritual purity, and the reverence for life, which come, those 4 categories, those 4 things come after the death of Nadab and Abihu for bringing Yesh Sarah. Immediately after those 4, it says Aharei Mot Shnei Bnei Haron in chapter 16. Then it says Aharei Mot Shnei Bnei Haron b'korbatam v'fil Eloi ve'yamutu. Ve'yomer Adonai al Moshe Eber el Haron achika. Speak to your brother Haron. V'al yabo b'kol et el hakodesh. He cannot come at any time.
Right.
When you say that, that means he could come at any time prior to this. Would you agree with that, folks who are online? No one's commenting, so I guess there's agreement.
Yes.
Okay. Yes, I heard a yes. Okay. Outside of the curtain, right before the kaporet.
Well, it can't just be a reminder.
Sorry.
It can't just be a reminder. He wasn't allowed before, but it's just.
No, tell him. Go inform him. He's informing him. It's just that. Vayomer Hashem was it. Go tell your brother Alia Bobikol Etel HaKodesh. This is it. Used to be able to do it. It's a new legislation, right?
No, it's a new legislation that it needs an Anan.
No, I'm about to read it. One second. Hello, he doesn't and he won't die. Now, I pointed out at that time that those words v'lo yamut, right? If you'll go back to the end of the 4 elements in chapter in the area in the previous section where we not the 4 elements, the 4 categories. The last one is Sarah. What does it say? After it finishes with the one with the area that talks about Zab and Zabah in chapter 15, in verse 31, which is 3 or 4 verses before this, right? Whatever. See the words v'lo yamutu, you'll warn them and they won't die. B'tumatam, in their tum'ah, b'tame'am et mishkani, right? When they defile my mishkan, asher b'tucham, that's in their midst. Zot Torah hazab, v'asher tetzeh minu shechvat zera l'tum'ah ba. V'hadavam, v'nidatam, v'azab, v'azachar, v'nidatam, asher yishkab im teme'ah. And I point out that it ends with the words, and a man who sleeps with a teme'ah. And then the very next words are, it says v'lo yamutu, just like it says v'lo yamutu in the previous one. See those words repeated, and it says over there it says v'lo yamutu, right? Exactly. So over here, when you read it, it says ve'yamutu, and in fact they did die, right? Yeah. Ve'yamutu. It's the other one v'lo yamut. Over here it says
No,
After they died, after
Right, that's
But
the
then-
best way
but
with
without-
Tamid.
Points out the Mishkan with his,
This is the Tamid, they went Tamid.
right,
now here we go, this is Mishkan.
exactly, because Batam Lefnei Adonai Veyamutu, and they did that. But the first words are Aharei Mot. It's a strange way to say it. After the death of the sons of Aharon, when they because Batam Lefnei Adonai Veyamutu, and they died, and they died for that, like V'lo Yamut of Veyamutu, right? Then it says, right? No, then it says, V'yonolai Moshe, he can't come anytime he wants. And he won't die. Now that V'lo is like the V'lo Yamutu and Haremot, and over there V'yamutu, and now it says V'lo Yamut. And all of these are dealing with capital punishment, correct?
No, we didn't remind.
Okay, doesn't matter. I will now appear in a cloud.
Which was I didn't before.
That's correct.
So in other words, previously I would have to go into this location and without an anan and be in the presence of.
That's correct. That's correct. Previously, you could walk right in.
So it's not necessarily a time constraint, it's just a situational constraint, being that there's an anan and he has to be a little, the anan seems to be the main difference now.
He can't come in whenever he wants. Now he can only come in with an anan.
Right, okay.
That's all, period. What?
Yes, we know.
Always,
Yeah,
always
that's-
have to, always.
Wait, so is that suggesting the Kodesh Kodashim, does that matter?
Yeah.
Kodesh Kodashim, we're talking about.
We're talking about walking into the very opening at the door in the Kodesh. Can't go in. Listen, I'm gonna read it now. Wait, 1 second.
No.
Don't jump. Bezot yabo Aaron el Kodesh. This is how he comes into the Kodesh. Not the Kodesh, how he walks into the Mishkan. Before bin bakar lehatat, he has to bring a hatat, fa'il le'ula, and an aisle for ula sacrifice. Ketonet bad, Kodesh yilbash. He has to wear ketonet bad, umechneseh bad, you al bisrob, abnet bad, yahkor. Everything goes with bad. Ubenetzefet bad, yisob, b'gdei kodeshem, v'rahatz b'mayim et b'saro. Ubisham, he washes and then he wears them. Ume'adat b'nei Yisrael likash shnei Yisrei Izim v'hatat is the Kippur hatat for Kippur. V'ayil echad le'olam. V'kri b'haron et par hatat shlo v'kri b'ado b'ad betor. Always important to know that when he makes the first thing that he does is he makes kapara ba'ado. He's got to make kapara for himself. Then he's got to make kapara for his family. Then he takes the serim and he puts for God pita on moed and atan haron al shnei serim goralot. He puts a lottery. Goral had Adonai. One lottery is for God and one is to Azazel. He takes the one for good for that's going to be the Sa'id, right? That's going to go to Azazel and he I'm sorry. No, I was right. Asher Allah Allah Hagurol, that the lottery was chosen for it, La Adonai, and he makes it a hatat. Sa'id Asher Allah Allah Hagurol Azazel. For that one, Yaumad High, it stays alive. Make kapara. To send it to the desert, to Azazel in the desert. And then the shahadit para hatar shelo, and then and then he takes a fistful, right? Of I'm sorry, no. First he takes a pan that's filled with gahale ish, coals of fire, me'alam mizbeach from the altar, before God, and a fistful of ketoret samim, of incense, daka, fine incense. Broken, he takes it out from the outside of the parochet. He's not in the Kodesh Kodeshim, he's before it, right? He puts the incense on the fire, Lefnei Adonai, before God, and it covers the kaporet, right? and he doesn't die. There's that term again, right? Lakami down upon me, it's 7 times, and it's 7 and 1. You read this all on Kippur, etc., etc. Okay, and by the way, of course, it's going to be the Chiper Ba'ador Abdul Torah, and in verse 17, I think I once did an analysis of this, and Ub'ad Kol Kahal Yisrael is the center of the entire Yom Kippur ritual. I think. That said, now I'll read this to you.
Wait, can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Okay. So either as a-
Grandpa,
Yes.
what is the symbolism of flicking the blood towards the kaporet? I think Rabbi Sassoon spoke about it in the context of paraduma.
Yeah. What do you think it means?
I don't know, I'm asking you.
Well, of course, it's going to be a 7-1. That's going to be the 7 and the 1, and the bringing of the berit into it. Correct? Because he sprinkles 7 times, right? Sheva lemata, right, and then 1 lematla, right?
7 and 1.
7 and 1. So it goes out of its way to say there's a 7. Well, that's what the text says, right? Right. So the blood is going to have to do with life, is it not?
Probably, yeah. I mean, blood
Right.
is the life force.
The life force, right?
Authority.
And
Then
the Torah is the one, as the Rab writes in his book, that you see blood rituals, right, with the sacrifices taking place. That's not common, or not at all. In fact, it's introduced over here. And I always look personally. This is not answering your question directly, but I look at statements made about the sprinkling blood around the mizbeach. I always look at the 79th Mizmor, where he talks about that's the one that's talking about the destruction of Jerusalem, and it says
Shapechu damam kamayim.
that's correct.
Batiru
That's
Shamayim.
exactly right. That's right. That's the 79th Mizmor, the one that talks about that. That's correct. The destruction of Jerusalem, and then it says in the I'll just read it to you. It says, "Natenu et niblat avadecha ma'achal of hashamayim," right? Food for the birds, and then "B'sar hasliyecha l'hayt arz shefichu damam," they poured their blood kamayim like water sibibot Yerushalayim. So that always reminds me, because we're in Asaf, and because I know that Asaf is all focusing on the priesthood, and so it reminds you of pouring the blood around the mizbeach. So I think of the procedure as having to do with the fact, right, that they poured the blood. Pouring the blood around the mizbeach is like reminiscent of the fact that you now are doing something that is recalling the fact this blood that's pouring around Jerusalem. When you do the around the altar pouring, you're recalling the fact you caused that, you brought that about, and that it's really because of your corruption and because of what you allowed. It's
So you didn't do the blood in the proper way also.
because you did regular idolatry.
Right.
No, you did idolatry. They were just idolaters in the full sense of the word.
Not to ask you my
Right.
Azazel
Never heard that.
Yeah.
The Azazel comes before he does anything for the Am. It's only when he does it in his Beto.
Yes.
The Azazel.
I don't think so.
Yeah,
I don't think.
I
No, it says before he does that other sacrifices. That's all. But that's not only for him. That's not only him, right?
The strange place should be placed after or around the
Right.
for the whole Am, not when he's just doing for the Beto.
I don't think he's doing this only for himself. Your question. I understand you're trying to say it's only for him, but I don't believe that. I believe it's for the entire nation. Everybody. I understand. He doesn't say it's for him. והקריב הארון את פרח האתר שלו, וחיבר בעדו בעד איתו, then ושחט את פרח האתר שלו, then ולקח מלוח נתן, כעלי אש, and then מלוח אופניו, and then והביא לו דבר, ונתן את הקורות על האש.
It shouldn't Azazel become when he started to do for the whole nation, not just for his Beto.
Right,
What?
I understand your question, and I don't think, I'm not gonna answer you because I don't have an answer to you about why Azazel comes first, other than that, Azazel is a key feature of what goes on for the day. So he can't do anything till he does his own kapara.
Right.
Now he functions as he does when he does that, and he does Azazel. For him, for the whole nation, he makes a thing like that, and then he goes on to bring the
He
hatam.
doesn't kill it, he's not killing it, just setting
Yeah,
it up. No, he doesn't.
There's two.
He's just getting it ready.
But the first goat that he sacrifices is
He
part of the
doesn't,
Azazel
no,
procedure.
he doesn't
It's-
sacrifice
It's
it.
part of the
He
Azazel.
doesn't sacrifice
He
it.
sacrifices the first one.
No, he doesn't.
Yes, he does. Read
No,
it.
he doesn't.
Read it.
Allah, good, Allah,
Before
no,
that,
He's 100% right. He's 100% right. Look at verse 20.
he's not.
that's discussing what happened to that other goat, the other Azazel later
No,
on. But
no.
read from Pasuk.
The one that's alive is
He's
after.
not killing you, he's just setting it up. No, it's not.
That's just telling you that we're going back. Let's go back to Azazel.
Wait,
No, you're not going back. You're going forward. You're not going back anywhere. You're not going back. You're not going back. והקריב האוויר את הקודש ואת עול מועד ואת המזבח, והקריב את הסיר החי, סרמך אהרון את שתי ידיו על ראש הסיר וחי והתוודה. And then he's doing it. That's the national thing. Yes. Yes, clearly.
This is the rule.
Clearly.
Yeah.
Can we go
Okay,
forward?
go.
Yeah. What you don't like it, there's nothing to like. It's coming after. There's nothing for you to like and not like.
The scheme about Azazel over there in Pasuk
Is
four,
the setup.
Yes.
It should be set up. It should-
Okay,
Go ahead.
next.
I made my-
You-
Go ahead.
Okay,
It's not gonna-
it's
It
right.
would make sense even for him to do it after
He's gotta set it up, everything's gotta be ready.
But set it up, and you do it for the arm, not for you just
No,
do it all
he's
day.
doing everything, he sets it all up.
Okay.
He's in a position, I'm gonna stop and go get the thing.
I'm not going to respond. I'm not going to respond. As a result of the actions of Aharon's sons entry into the Kodesh Kodeshim will require an Anan. The high priest will no longer be able to look directly at the Aron as before. His view of the Aron is literally clouded.
Yes.
How does he do that? By creating a man-made smoke screen. Of course, the smoke screen is not smoke where you're choking and you can't see. Of course not. It's just a smoke screen. It's a ritual that represents a thought, not a ritual that represents a reality. Correct? In other words, when you do that, it implies, right? There's a smoke screen. I don't, he can no longer walk in and see it with clarity. Of course, when you have a pan with steam coming out, of course you could see, and of course you could see what's going on. But it is representative of the idea that you can't see clearly anymore. So the ritual represents an action that represents a reality, nothing to do with what's in your hand, right? Similarly, that's going to be the case with Azazel. When you do Azazel, people who do rituals, they think that the ritual has efficacy.
Sure.
I think it does something. See, the efficacy. They think it does something. They think, I'll be silly. I think if they had a pound of matzah, it means something. You know what I mean? Right? So I just wanted to make that clear. So he'll no longer be able to look at the runs before. His view of the Aron is literally clouded. Literally, it is now. It's clouded. You made yourself a man-made cloud. The word parochet and kaporet, these are notes, not a written document, not a finished document. The word parochet and kaporet are anagrams of the word kaper, of course, right? Parochet, kaporet, right? Atone, and both accomplish a similar function. The parochet is the curtain that separates the Kodesh from the Kodesh Kodeshim. You have the curtain, it's called the parochet, right? Veiling the inner room that contains the Ark of the Covenant, right? You can't see through it. That's what it does, right? The kaporet in the room is the aron. On top of that aron is the kaporet. The kaporet colors the ark itself and prevents one from seeing the top of the ark. So this curtain, you can't see the ark, and when you're inside, you still can't see the top of the ark. You see the ark, but you can't see the top. It's covered, right? Both words, by the way, side point, both words have the numerical value of 700. Parochet kaporet, right? It's 700. Counted.
Top and pay is 100, and then you
Yeah.
have yeah.
Okay, good. And both precede the ark containing the covenant that is symbolized by the digit 8. Parentheses. This is another example of the old order preceding the new one. The 7 preceding the 8, which is like the sprinkling 7 and 1, which also does that, correct? This is another example of the old order preceding Noah 7 and 8. Note that the root kaped also occurs in the Noah narrative, where when he's commanded to build the ark. Now you have an ark and you have an aron. The ark, it says in Bereshit 6:14, it says, "Aseh lecha tebat aseh gofer," make yourself a tebat of gofer wood, kinim ta'aseh tebat, v'chafarta et ota mibayit u'michutz bakofer, and you pitch it, right? Its plain meaning is to cover it inside and out with pitch, right? These words are play on the word kaper, right? And the vessel that will contain 8 people. How many people are in the aron, Ike? Not the aron, the tebat, right? Him and his wife, his 3 daughters, his 3 sons, and their wives, right? So there's 8 people. So the vessel contains 8 people who will save the world from total destruction. The world from total destruction is covered inside and out with atonement. You could say it's covered with pitch from inside and out, right? Mibayit u'michutz, right? Now, listen carefully. In Haremot, it is used in a similar manner. I'll read it to you. If you want to take a look at the Haremot 16, 12, 13, 14, 15, etc. ונתן את הקטורת על האש לפני אדוני, וכיסה ענן הקטורת את הכפורת אשר על העדות ולא ימות, right? Then, etc., 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 והביא מבית לפרוכת in 12. In 13, it says, ונתן את הקטורת על האש לפני אדוני, וכיסה ענן את הקטורת את הכפורת אשר העדות ולא ימות, ולאחר מדמה apart, and then it's kaporet, and hakaporet, and then in 15 it's la parochet and hakaporet and lefnei hakaporet. You know, by the way, that terminology in the last one, v'shaharet tzira hatat asher la'am v'hebi damo el mibet la parochet v'asad damo kasher asal ladam apart v'hizah oto al hakaporet v'lefnei hakaporet. It's going out of its way to, yeah.
Oh, in Kodesh Kodeshim, I thought you said Mibela Parochet outside the Parochet in the Kodesh.
No, it means inside. Yeah, right.
Kaporet is inside.
Yeah, the kapot it's inside. Yeah. Note that the phrase mibayit u'michutz occurs in the Torah only twice. Only in reference to the construction of the ark and the construction of the aron. In Bereshit 6:14, we just read it before. Aseh lecha tebat aseh gofer kinim taseh tateva v'chafata ota mibayit u'michutz bakofer. The only other time you have that is in Shemot 25:11. V'sepita oto zahav tahor mibayit u'michutz tetzapenu v'asita alav zir zahav sabib. And then in 37, which is the repeating of it in Vayiqra, right? I guess in Vayiqra 2, 37:2. So the only time you have the expression inside and out, interestingly enough, is inside and out with the teba, with kofir, right? And then you have it only again in in 614, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
did
yeah,
I,
yeah.
I say it right? In 614, yeah, right.
It's-
No, I'm sorry. I wanted to say uh,
27-2.
in 614, and then you have it in 2511. That's what I meant in the construction, right? The incense is put on now. Let's go forward. The incense is put on the coals of fire in order to create the anan that will prevent the priest from seeing the Aron clearly. Good?
Mhm.
He will see it, but not be able to discern every aspect of it with the clarity that was there prior to the offering of his sons. Remember, all of this is Ahare Mot Shnei Bnei Aharon, right? Tied in with this new state of affairs is the Yom Kippur Azazel ritual, which is mechaper for the nation's sins. After a lottery, one goat dies and the other is sent into the desert. Apparently, the two goats symbolize the reality of the nation's situation in exile. I wrote apparently at that time. That was 20 years ago. I don't say apparently. I take out that word. The two goats, I'm taking out the word. I like to delete it right now. The two goats symbolize the reality. Yeah. The two goats symbolize the reality of the nation's situation in exile. As a result of its sins, many have been murdered or have died from disease and malnutrition. The ones who survived are wandering aimlessly in the desert/exile. The lottery symbolizes randomness. It represents what is perhaps the most disturbing aspect of the nation's situation. Hashem has stepped back and is allowing the evil intentions of wicked foreign leaders to take their course. The result is random destruction and death of many in the nation, and the rest going into the desert/exile. I put desert/exile because the seir that's alive is sent into the desert, exiled, so to speak, right? Thus, the ritual on Yom Kippur, Thus, the ritual on Yom Kippur, no, that's a rabbinic. That's
Nothing to do with sins.
rabbinic. Thus, the ritual on Yom Kippur takes on one of the worst, if not the worst, sin of the nation in its idolatrous strain, goat demon worship, which in chapter 17, in 1 minute, you're going to read that goat demon worship is one of the worst things that you could do, right? All you have to do is turn one page and say, and Veloyes behu in verse 7, Veloyes behu od ezibhahem la seirim asher hem zonim aharehem hukat olam tiyeh zot lahem ledorotam. Right? That verse is clearly coming after 16 to say, don't you dare think that what you just read before has anything to do with this. They will not do the goat demon worship, right? So that's why we're gonna expand on that, right? Go and all the abominable practices are coming in and turns it into it. So it takes the sin of the nation in its idolatrous strain, goat demon worship, and all the abominable practices that accompanied it, and turns it into the ritual that will be the kapara for the nation. It takes the very thing that is at the core of it, and what does it do? It uses it to represent the thing you do to make kapara. But listen, it represents what? Their awareness of the reason they are in exile and a commitment on the part of the spiritual leaders and the rest of the leadership and the nation to not let this happen again. Let me explain something about that. The ritual, when you do a ritual, you're focusing on something. You don't do this ritual because it has efficacy. You don't do this ritual because God is satisfied now. You do this ritual that says, go worship. Go worship. You are an avodah zarah. This is what you did. When you did this, The result of it was that some of you died. How? Randomly. Some of you lived. How? Randomly. And what happened to you? Well, you go, listen carefully, you now went in wandering in the desert with those sins. You take the sins and you put it on the goat, correct?
Yeah.
What does it mean you take the sins, you put it on the goat? Joey, tell them. What does it mean when you take the sins and you put it on the goat? What does that mean? You now are carrying the sins of the nation when you're going out. Those sins are on you, the individual. You're not putting it on. You're the sin. You're alive. They're dead. They're not kept. The sin has taken its toll on them. So what are you doing? Well, you're carrying the sin out into your life. You are now bearing that sin. You're carrying it, and you're going out of it literally, not sketch. When you say the sins are on them, the sins are on them because that animal doesn't represent that animal. That animal represents you. Exactly like the term Asad, and he carries the sin. So the sins are on top of them, right? What? That's right. You're living. Right, so you're living with those consequences. So you're carrying those consequences are on you because you're around. They're not around, right?
I said better those who got killed and stuff than those who lived and stuff.
That's correct.
The burden of
That's correct. In fact, Yirmiyah says something. Maybe I could read those words to you. Just 1 minute.
Grandpa, what does
Yeah.
the Ish Iti mean? Why is he a man of time?
A good question. If you give me a minute, I'll try and address it. Could you just remind me? I just want to. I don't want to forget this point for a second, and I'll come to answer your question. He's asking. It says that you send out the animal. Ronnie's asking, by the way. Take a look at 21. He puts his two hands on the head of the Sayyid. And he makes vidui. You hear? He makes vidui alab. This is so appropriate after what I just now told you. You're going out with the sins, right? So you do vidui. You on Yom Kippur are doing vidui. You know, it's what you do till today, right? Right? And he puts them on the Sayyid. And he sends it with the man of the hour, right? Of the time, the man of the time, Hamid Bara. So Ronnie is asking, what do you mean with the man of the et? Who is that guy? I'd like to address it, but give me a minute. Give me a minute. I will. By the way, let's finish. He carries the sins, right? To the land of the Gezerah. You know what the Gezerah is? A decree. Yeah, you could say the land of where terrible things are, Gezerah, like they translate it. Or you could say the land of the Gezerah. Yeah, that's the Gezerah. That's what happened, right? Right? The Shalat HaSa'id Bamidbar, he sends it into the desert as the people went, right? Now, I just want to go back and see if I can remember where where Yirmiyah says it's in 15, correct? Yeah. Take a look at Yirmiyah 15. Right? That's correct. That's correct. That's right. I'll show it to you. You guys who are online, if you take a look at Yirmiyah chapter 15, it'll be here. If Moshe, by the way, when you say that, of course, he's prompting him. If Moshe and Shemuel would be here, I'm not listening. He didn't say you. He said Moshe and Shemuel, but he didn't tell Yirmiyah, you, right? Right? He says if they would be here, right? And then they say, where should we go? When they asked you, well, where do you want us to go? Right? Here's the horrible statement. You know what that means? Isn't that, Morris? Wouldn't you say that's exactly random?
Yep, yep.
Ronnie, you agree? Rabbi Ilnekave, you agree?
Random.
Yes, yes.
Random,
Whatever
right?
will be.
Whoever dies, dies. Whoever gets this goes to is a sword to the sword, famine to famine, captivity. Who is it? Whoever it is. It's completely random. These words, such devastating words. By the way, when you be here, this piece, if you want to know, just to let you know, in chapter 15, he's going to go on to say.
Yeah.
I think it's worth reading for everybody, just so you know this, because it's good learning experience. In verse 3, in chapter 15, verse 3, I'll read it in Hebrew. You all know Hebrew pretty good. Ufakadati alihim arba mishpachot num Adonai. Et aherib laherod, the kelabim l'shod, the of hashemayim, and behemat haaretz le'echol u'lashrit. Horrible words. That's what I'm going to point, right? Untatim l'zava. Because Menashe ben Huskiah, because Menashe, Melech Yehuda, al asher asa b'Yerushalayim, for what he did in Jerusalem. Kimi yahmo alayich Yerushalayim. You know, he offered his child to Molech, right. Umi yanud lach, umi yasud l'shalom lach. At natasht oti num Adonai, ahor telechi, v'at et yadi alayich. And I'm going to put my hand upon you, I'm going to destroy you. I refuse to be consoled. I'm going to, scatter them like you do with the winnowing, right? Shikalti ibati et amim idarchem lo shabu atzamudli al menotav mehol yamim hebeti lahem al em bahur shoded b'tzahoraim. Oh, horrible words. Hipalti aleha pitom ir ubehalot. Terror, right? Umlala yuledet hashibah nafeha nafsha ba'ashim shimsha. His son said, the sun is setting, right? Everybody's dead. Be'od yomam bosha b'hafera ush eritam. And the remnant, laherib item. Lefnei oy behem Adonai. You know what Yirmiyah says when he finishes hearing chapter 15? Oy li mi ki litini ish riv ish medon lechol aris lo nashiti lo nashu bi kolomikalen kane. Woe unto me, right?
Yeah.
For my mother giving birth to me. He is devastated, right? In any event, it'd be nice to read to you what he says over here, right? In any event, let's go back now. You have this perspective, and let's continue reading, right? Before I read it to you, I want you to know that he takes the description we just now read in Yom Kippur. He takes a pan, he takes gahale ish, coals of fire, puts it in the pan, takes well, he's holding a pan. I guess there's a way to hold it. Yeah. No. It's in a pan. He takes coals of fire. The Besamim. Yeah.
Oh, it's not.
No, nothing. It's Besamim, right? He takes it and what do you do when you put it on hot coals? It goes, and the steam, it starts to evaporate, and that's how you make the smoke, right? So I want you to listen to this. In Mizmor 18, everybody turn to Mizmor 18. It's worth it for you to see it inside. It's worth it for you to see it inside, right? In verse
15.
Yeah. Why is my suffering eternal forever? Right? Exactly. Now, look at verse 8, Mizmor 18, which is Mizmor 18. Nobody knows that Mizmor 18 is a reflection of his first Nivuah, of chapter 1 of Yirmiyah. It took me a very long time to realize that. Yeah, the whole opening. Vayet Shamayim, Vayered Barafil Tahat Reglav, right? That's like a 9. Take 9. Allah Shan, start with better. Start with verse 8. Vatigash haaretz. Does anybody have English here?
I do.
Yeah. Vatigash haaretz musteharim yirgazu vidgashu ki haralo.
Earth rocked and quaked, and the foundations of the mountain shook, rocked by his indignation.
By his indignation. Allah Hashem be'apor.
Smoke went up from his nostrils.
V'esh mipiv tochel.
His mouth came devouring fire.
Fire. Gehalim ba'aru memenu.
The cold blazed forth from him.
You hear this? He's angry, right? You just now said Allah Hashem be'apor. Very angry. Ve'esh mipiv tochel. Fire is coming out of his mouth. Gehalim, burning coals. Ba'aru memenu. Baruch Otam. 14 يوم وهم شني شبعت. Okay, if I didn't do that, I'm gonna add that along. If I don't do it now, done. Yeah,
My bedroom and one downstairs.
yeah. Otherwise, I'm finished. Yeah. You're done. Okay, guys online, Fadalu, you could say the Omen. Yeah. So you see the anger. I wanted you to sense God's anger, right? The coals. Now watch what happens. This is a storm god imagery. You realize that, right? Go ahead.
He bent the sky and came down thick cloud beneath his feet. He mounted it to the cherub and flew.
And he flew on the wings of the wind.
Made darkness a screen, darkness, thunderheads, dense clouds of the sky for his pavilion around him.
That is the imagery in the summertime when you see one of those real storms. The sky gets very, very dark. You hear the thunder. You see lightning, right? And it gets deep. It gets very, very dark before the storm hits. The wind, it builds up.
Out of the brilliance before him,
Abav aviru
hail and fiery coals
barad ish.
pierced his clouds.
So now, what's coming out? Again, you didn't say it loud.
Out of the brilliance before him, hail and fiery coals pierced his clouds. It's like lightning.
Right? And hail and fiery coals, right? That's that. It's using the term. That's all God's anger. It's the storm God, and it describes again.
It's like lightning coming through.
Minorga no abav aviru. Abav aviru. Barad ish. Hail and coals of fire. Right? So it's using this term to describe God's anger, burning fury at the peak of the storm when it's busting out.
But a lot of Kodesh Kodashim phrases, words. A lot of the Acharei Mot words.
Well, I'm going to talk about this specific thing. In Mizmor 18, the coals of fire represent Hashem's anger. I wanted you to see it inside clearly. In the Azazel ritual, the high priest takes a pan filled with burning coals, representing God's anger. Here's God's anger. He's holding God's anger in the pan, right? And places a fistful of incense, representing the incense that was offered in pagan worship. right? Ketoret. What was the sin of the Yehuda? Ketoret. The northern kingdom's sin was, we've spoken about it before, the golden calf. You never hear about golden calf worship in the south, and you never hear there. The northern's main thing is the golden calf with Yeroboam in Dan and Bethel. The southern kingdom, you hear about Ketoret. Ketoret. They're always doing that. That's that. But there's a bigger one than that. Yirmiyahu, I'm going to quote it now. Just give me a minute. Right? Representing incense, representing the incense that was offered in pagan worship. So you have God's anger. Here's it, and you make the cloud out of that. So when you're making the cloud, that cloud is coming from God's anger and from representing God's anger because of the avodah zarah you did with incense, right? That was the peak of their thing. Thus, the sins of the priests and the nation are the cause of the cloud that prevents a clear view of the Kodesh, Aron, Luchot. In Jeremiah 19, 1-13, you should open it up while I'm talking.
Where?
Jeremiah 19, 1-13. It's worth it for you to look at it inside so you get the feel of it. Morris, Ronnie, you looking it up?
19? Yeah, 19.
Yep.
Yeah. How about Ronnie if you read it to us?
What, in Yirmiyah 19?
Yes, read it to us.
Okay, just 1 second.
That's just one.
Pasuk 1. Start. You can start with Pasuk 1.
Hold on, I'm getting it.
Sure.
Okay, here we go. כה אמר אדוני, הלוך וקנית בקבוק יוסר חרס, ומזקני העם ומזקני הכהנים. ויסעת על גבן הינום, אשר פתח שער החרסית, וקראת שם את הדברים אשר אדבר אליך.
So you go to Gehinnom and the valley, and you take the people with you, and you go over there and you say the following thing.
We think you jug, a cheap jug.
Yeah.
ואמרת, שמעו דבר אדוני מלכי יהודה ויושבי ירושלים. כה אמר אדוני צבאות אלוהי ישראל, הנני מביא רעה על המקום הזה, אשר כל שומעה תצלנה אוזניו.
I'm going to bring evil that anybody hears about it, his ears are going to ring.
Mhm.
When you have the expression ears are ringing, what does that mean when you say my ears are ringing? It's going to have an overwhelming, a jarring effect. Your ears are going to ring. Go ahead.
יען, אשר עזבוני וינכרו את המקום הזה, ויקטרו בו אלוהים אחרים, אשר לא
Because they
ידעום,
offered incense to other gods. Asher.
אשר לא ידעום, המה ואבותיהם ומלכי יהודה, ומלאו את המקום הזה דם נקיים.
And they filled this place with innocent blood. Yeah, it says it, God.
ובנו את במות הבעל לשרוף את בניהם באש עולות לבעל, אשר לא ציוויתי ולא דיברתי ולא עלתה על ליבי.
Because I never commanded, never entered my mind. That expression is an amazing expression. It's like, it's such a sick thing. God's talking like a person would. It would never enter my mind. Right? Right? לכן,
לכן הנה ימים באים נאום אדוני, ולא יקרא למקום הזה עוד התופת בן הינום, כי אם גה ההרגה.
this place is not going to be called Gehinnom. You know what it's going to be called? The Valley of Death. Right?
ובקראתי את עשת יהודה וירושלים במקום הזה, והפלתים בחרב לפני אויביהם, וביד מבקשי נפשם, ונתתי נבלתם למאכל לעוף השמיים ובהמת הארץ.
Go ahead. This one you could say, Ubakoti, AB translate that. Bakwati is verse 7.
Oh, he will frustrate the plans of Yehuda and Yerushalayim in this place.
I'll frustrate, he says, right? I'll frustrate them. Okay? I'd like to know where that, a better thing on that word. Visamti, go ahead. Visamti.
ושמתי את העיר הזאת לשמה ולשרקה, כל עובר עליה יישום וישרוק על כל מכותיה.
They're gonna whistle. Can't believe what happened to this place. Amazing. Go.
והחתים את בשר בניהם ואת בשר בנותיהם, ואיש בשר רעהו יאכלו, ומסורו מסוק, אשר יסיקו להם אויביהם ומבקשי נפשם.
Horrible. Go ahead.
ושברת הבקבוק לעיני האנשים ההולכים אותך.
In front of them, you break the bottle on the floor. Go ahead.
ואמרת להם, כה אמר אדוני צבאות, ככה אשבור את העם הזה ואת העיר הזאת, כאשר ישבור את כלי היוסר, אשר לא יוכל להירפא עוד.
Like when you break that kind of a vessel, you can't put it back together, the clay thing, it's shattered, done, yeah.
מאין מקום לקבור. Of course, this is all Psalm 2.
Two more verses, 12 and 13, and you can stop.
כן אעשה למקום הזה נאמר אדוני ליושביו, ולתת את העיר הזאת כתופת.
Right, and I'm going to make it like the city like the Tophet, that's where they did the child sacrifice, right? Go. Now watch the last, all of that was so you could read this pasuk.
והיו בתי ירושלים ובתי מלכי יהודה, כמקום התופת הטמאים, לכל הבתים אשר כתרו על גגותיהם, לכל סביבה השמיים, להסך נסכים לאלוהים אחרים.
And now he describes Yirmiyahu. You know what you see when you look at Jerusalem? You see the rooftops all smoking from the Avodah Zarah, right? So listen carefully. In Jeremiah 9, 1 to 13, the roofs of Jerusalem are smoking from the incense and the libations to other, in parentheses, and the libations to other gods that was offered to all the hosts of heaven, right? Which is what we just read. In the construction of the incense altar, in Exodus 30, chapter 3, you know the incense, so Mizbeach HaZahav, Mizbeach HaKetoret, right? Its top is referred to as the roof and its sides as walls. An unusual way to refer to the top of an appurtenance that measures 1 by 1 by 2 cubits. Visipita otor, Zahav tahor, you pitch it in pure gold, it gagor, its roof and its walls. It's your roof and walls. It's a roof. You're talking about something that's low. It's like this. It's like this, and it's like this.
Like top and bottom would make
So you see, note that the word gag, right, occurs in the Torah only 3 times. Twice in reference to the incense altar, incense altar. Once to the law in Deuteronomy 22:8 to build a fence around one's roof. But that's a technical thing, right? You have to, right? That's it. See also Kings 23:12. Also note in Jeremiah 19, the close connection between the incense offering and child sacrifice. The Yom Kippur ritual is immediately followed in chapter 17 by the prohibition to offer sacrifices to goat demons, clearly stating that the ritual of Yom Kippur and goat demon worship have nothing whatsoever to do with each other. Actually, the ritual is a result of the goat demon worship, etc., and a yearly opportunity for national atonement. Chapter 18 of Vayiqra will present the sexual prohibitions. Chapter 19, the center point of the holiness code, the command to be holy, paralleling the 10 Commandments. See Hakam Moshe's commentary. Chapter 20 will then prohibit child sacrifice, followed by Law 10F in the casuistic presentation. Both of these.
Grandpa.
Yes.
If we want to say that the ritual of the 2 Se'irim on Kippur matches an exilic context, then wouldn't I understand why you would have Aharon coming in with a smoke screen now? Because that they did Ketoret in Jerusalem and Yehuda. Do we know for certain that the goat demon worship was prevalent in the kingdom of Yehuda around the time of destruction?
So I can't answer that question. I don't know. I think that whether this is how I approach it, I don't have a better answer than this. I think it's going out of its way to use goat demon worship as, of course, any type of worship, right? It doesn't matter if it's cow worship, if it's goat worship, or if it's any other kind of, but why does he use that one specifically? Because it wants to make the contrast and at the same time talk about all black magic worship, demon worship, or whatever it may be. That's the best I could answer right now. But your question is still a good question, and you should do some research on it. I just want to finish reading this now. I'm going to answer your HET, and if you give me 1 minute. Chapter 20 will then prohibit child sacrifice, followed by the law Tanaf, etc. Both of these elements apply to the reign of Menashe in 2 Kings 21, whose actions are considered to be decisive in bringing about the exile. You know that, everybody, right? Shem says, because of what Menashe did, what did he do? Orban Yid Oni and Ma'abir, and they did the Molech worship, right? Now listen carefully, Ike, you listening? Note the Leviticus 26, 27, closing the envelope reference to Orban Yid Oni, and 2 Kings 21:6 reference. There are only 11 references in Tanakh, almost all refer to our context. Also note, in Jeremiah 19:3, it says, Tislena Oznav, your ears will ring. And take a look at 2 Kings 21:12, about, it says, Tislena Shte Oznav, 2 of only 3 occurrences of this phrase, the third in 1 Samuel 3:11, where it says that where Eli's high priests, the high priest did not rebuke his sons for their sinful actions. Nadab and Abihu, Hofni and Pinhas, and Tislena, and with all the same, and with the Molech, and over here we have the references to those incidents, because we're talking about Hadeh Moshe ben Aaron, and it comes with Eli, and it comes with him. What did he do? Orban Yid Oni, and he did Molech worship, right? And Yirmiyah is talking about the things smoking. Just give me a minute. I want to finish it. So therefore, 1, high priest; 2, sons of abuse, their 2 sons who abuse their priestly position; and 3, 2 sons that die on the same day, right? So therefore, in Numbers 25, Aaron's grandson Pinhas takes a spear and at Petah Oil Moed kills those involved in sexual promiscuity / idolatry. In 1 Samuel 2:22, another Pinhas and his brother Hofni are the ones who are involved in the sexual promiscuity at Petah Oil Moed. Ve'eli zaken moed v'shmat kol asher yasu b'nav kol asher yasu yashish kibun et hanashim at Tzavot Petah Oil Moed. So, thus, the actions of Pinhas in Numbers 25:7 atones for the sins of the priesthood, which is represented by Pinhas and his brother Hofni, the archetypes of corrupt religious leadership. Pinhas does this in front of Moshe, taking proper action and not standing for such a violation. His actions stand in stark contrast to those of Eli, who knew that his sons were doing, and yet only mildly reproved them for offenses that were, to say the least, despicable. Note the words Hofni and Pinhas and Sifaheni, which are a play. Now, listen carefully. The phrase Milor Hofnav, you take Milor Hofnav, is one of 2 occurrences of the string Hofni, and may be alluding to Hofni. But I put this in because when I told it to the rabbi, he flipped for it, and he thought it was right on. That may be alluding to Lo Hofnav, Hofni, who filled the hands with the Kodesh, right? Note other significant. Yeah. It could be vice versa, doesn't matter. Yeah. Note other significant connections between Numbers, Pinhas, and Nadav in the book of Samuel. The 3 words in there, Vayia Hadeh Magifah, preface Hashem's command in 26:2 to do a census. So I think I'm not going to read this now. It's pretty amazing stuff. It's all about Hofni, Pinhas, and Eli, and so on and so forth. And the Te'asar Magifah. This is a great paper, and maybe one time we'll do it. Maybe Ronnie will write all of this I want to read something that I wrote at the end of this paper, which I went on to explain all the connections. Hopefully, this helps in understanding the connections between the Gahale Ish, the Anan, the Seir Azazel, the nation going into exile, the Midbar Ha'amim, that Yehezkel talks, I skipped it. Yehezkel says, Midbar, they're going to the Midbar, means Midbar Ha'amim, the Midbar of the nations, right? Right? Which Rabbi Sassoon used to say, when going into the Midbar means the Midbar Ha'amim, going into the desert of the nations that you're going to go traveling through them, right? And the death of the sons of Aharon and Yom Kippur, and the centering this in Vayiqra, right before Parashat Koshim, and it's being preceded by the laws of Zab and Zabah, and followed by the 2 sets of sexual prohibitions and the Molech worship, and Menashe, and Ish in the laws, and Ish Hahu, and Eli's sons, Hofni and Pinhas, the end of the priestly line, and Pinhas, and the Beri Kionat Olam, beginning of his priestly line, ellipsis. Now, I was, of course, saying that at the end to let you know you're all connected.
Yeah,
The
sure.
whole picture
That's the
of
question.
everything. Now, Ronnie, to answer your Ish Et, what does it mean, the man of the hour, based on what I just now told you about Midbar Ha'anim, Ronnie? You fill in the blanks.
You mean the man of the darkest hour?
And so,
Like
why
the,
use
the
that term?
the
Is it
capital
referring
H
to
hour?
only
Like,
one time?
in other words, are you saying that the man of the hour is like you're reminded of the hour that you went into exile?
And if it's Midbar Ha'anim,
Taking care.
and the other time, and the other time, and the other time, and the other time, a little bit like Shebechol Dor Vador type of statement, right? It's the man who sends it in. When is it done? At that time, because you're looking back on time. You're not looking back at one incident. You're not looking back on.
Is it the Navi?
Navi, I like what he's saying.
Is it the Navi at that time?
It's the Navi.
At that time.
Yes, and it's a metaphor for the idea of at that time and at that time and at that time, right? Of course, he's the one. Of course, he's the one that's doing it all, right? It's Yirmiyah. I mean, it's the Navi. So I think Biyad Ish Iti means, like you say over here, right? It would be Yirmiyah at the destruction, right? But who says that's the end of it, right? You're doing this Hokat Olam. You're doing it forever. You're holding, right? You're remembering the lottery. You're remembering that this situation doesn't happen. Morris, I'd like you to confirm this. Listen carefully. Are we referring to one time or referring to sin and the cycle in the 3rd and the 4th generation, and you go out? This is you every single time putting yourself in this situation. And now the horror of that is that you end up in random exile. Hastarat panim. Hastarat panim means God hides his face. What is that imagery? God says, I'm out of here. Well, what happens when God's out of here?
Just rolling out.
Would they just roll wherever they roll? So, Morris, a comment from you.
Comment? Well, God hiding his face. God's influence is removed from the picture, and when that's going on, is random things of evil that come out of that, right?
So therefore, on Kippur, once a year, the nation every year, that's what it's being told. Every year do this. It's not, you weren't given this once. This is not, all our fast, Tisha B'Av, Yom Kippur, the fast always thought about the destruction, right? But when you're doing it, of course.
This is the
But when you're doing it, when you're reenacting it, exactly.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
When you're reenacting, it's
lives, it takes its own life over and over again.
It's
And
clear,
again,
it's
you're
fine,
reenacting it
it's-
because it's recurring.
It's recurring because then you put yourself in that position again in another time and in another place.
Why are you still got, why am I here? Why is this happening? It's natural.
Right, and
Why
you've got
is
to
it
end it, and you've got to end it. Now, what better thing, right, and what better thing for atonement is there than a person saying, I recognize that I'm here because of this.
Mhm.
That is real atonement. How do you change and become the other person, right? You look back on yourself, you're all old enough. You look back on yourself, Ronnie, you're still young. You look back on yourself and you see that guy and you think of something that you did and you go like this. You know, you go like this. You have nothing to do with that guy. If you'd see the videotape of yourself, you'd go, you cringe, right? What the heck, right? So when you do a thing and you say, I recognize that this is the reason that this happened. When you do that ritual, that is the ritual of what? Recognition. And when you do a ritual with recognition, that's kapara. You make kapara. You say, I shouldn't have done that. What? That. I shouldn't have done that. The very, very thing. And that's when the rabbis will discuss what's kapara. The first thing a kapara is recognizing,
Yes,
right? What? Yeah.
Being in the situation
that
again
could
and
be-
doing it the right way. which
And
is
doing it the right way, which is this.
Back to the
Yeah, but when
situation.
it comes to the Galut, that's generation. It's generation.
Yeah, that's the
But
next one. But this whole Kippur is individual and
You're
national.
still, reeling from the effects of.
Oh, really? 100%. 100%.
Look at them, Kippur lesson comes on individual level, family level, and national level.
Ronnie,
You have to do
Huh? Yehezkel says, you know what that represents? The metaphor, Midbar Ha'amim, traveling through the nations. Yes. Midbar Ha'amim. Says, what is the Midbar? That's the idea of traveling. Yeah, traveling through the nations now because you got thrown out because you blew it. You blew it. No, Yehezkel says that outright. He doesn't. Yeah, chapter 8. I didn't read it enough time. He uses the term. He says that midbar, that's the midbar ha'amim.
The original.
Yeah. When I finish this paper, I'll show it to you, and you'll see where he says it outright. Right.
It's the
Right.
wandering Jew, right? It's the wandering Jew
Wait.
concept.
Let's hear. I can't hear them. Yeah. Go ahead.
It's the wandering Jew concept.
Yeah, that's correct. You're wandering now. That's right. You're wandering through the nations, right? All those nations that you suffer the consequences of what you did. So that's what the nation does on Kippur. Who leads this? The religious leader.
Right.
Why the religious leader? Because they're the guys who are supposed to set you straight. They're the guys who are not supposed to allow this. I want to make a statement now. The reason I brought this paper over here, the Haredi option, is because you have nothing that's so embarrassing. The Rab would talk about this. Look at when you read this paper right over here, and look at how they talk about the war. Yeah, look at how they talk about the war. Look at how they talk about what you are, what you did, how you, it's embarrassing. They talk about the soldiers, they talk about their learning. It's embarrassing. Who is saying this? The so-called religious leaders. It is the epitome of just being ignorant, ignoramus, corrupt, and their whole look at the religion is such a it cheapens everything. It's a perversion.
The whole Tanakh. Because he said it before, and he said it before, you put a crack in the wall that helps.
It's a perversion.
They don't want me to help you.
I don't-
Yeah.
It's I wrote when I sent this out just now in the family chat by us internally, I wrote they distort the Torah and they pervert the Torah. It's a perversion. It's an outright perversion. So when you read about how he has to v'chiper ba'ado ad beto ad kol kahal Yisrael, that of course it's in Vayiqra, of course it's because the religious establishment brought a lot of these things about. All right, I hope you.
I got there on his scale. Now it says panim el panim.
Yeah. Moshe, yeah. I'm just gonna stop the share for a minute.
It's right. It says it's.
Mars, did you like this?
Excellent.
Yeah, Rabbi, was it good, Rabbi El Nekadir?
You loved it. So just one point. So you when the smoke is covering, right? When the smoke is rising, it's creating the situation of Hastarat Panim in the eyes of people.
Well, it's a little more than that. I didn't talk it out completely. Let me say it like this. Ronnie Mizrahi, step in here with your voice. Everybody step in with your voice. Whoever has to leave, because I'm going to explain. I think it has, I personally think of it like this. You are not, as a result of your actions, you're not going to be able to see clearly what I say now. There was a clarity you had before. Now it's going to be veiled. It's going to be veiled. The message is there, but it's not a direct message. You don't rate the direct message. You did something that has put you in a situation where I can't talk to you directly. I have to talk to you through a veiled message in order to bring about change. Something like, just, and I'm going to think of any example. Yosef cannot talk to his brothers directly. Yosef can only talk to them with a veil, with a cover, right? Because if he talks to them directly, they'll just blow it. There'll never be any real unity. The nation has crossed a line where to bring about change, we'll call it a collective subconscious that changes where there's a paradigm shift. You need now to talk. As a result of it, it's going to be a veiled message, and you're not going to know what's really going on. To make a joke, you're going to do Seir Azazel, but you're not going to know exactly what you're doing. Now we know it. Now we know it because it becomes a reality. But when they were doing Seir Azazel for the last 2,000 years, this thing, when I taught it the first time, you know what I went? Nobody knew this.
That's why
Nobody knows this. Everybody thinks you're sending the thing with the black magic into the desert,
That's why they throw.
That's
why I don't like.
right. That's why they throw their sins in tashlich. They think they're quick. Did you do it? Did you do it? What did you do? What? Did you throw them away? Throw them away. So this is an educative process. That's what I think it means. So you do a symbol that represents that it's an educative process. It's part of the process, right? Right. So it's going to be in other words, Nadav and Avihu do things, or Hofni and Pinhas, they do things that you can't just fix that by saying, okay, fix it. No. It's got to be a major reworking of the thinking of the nation, right? So
Right.
yeah.
You can
Fantastic.
mention the Anan of by the flood. No?
The Anan and the flood is the same. I didn't finish it tonight. I wanted to read to you. We didn't have to. I'll do it next time. I wanted to read to you Yehezkel's description of the Yehezkel has the chariot, and Yehezkel and the chariot. If you ever look at it, if you look at Yehezkel's statement, that's his first thing in Yehezkel. Did you guys ever read Yehezkel? Anybody? Yeah, chapter 1 is the chariot, right? So listen to the end of the chariot story. I'll read it fast to you. Va'ereh ke'en hashmal kemareh ish betla sabib mimareh motnav ulmatla, from his loins up. Umareh motnav ulmata, and from his loins down. He's looking at God, right? Ra'iti kemareh ish, like a fire, the nogah lo sabib, and a glow, right? Now listen carefully. He is describing when he's seeing God. I see this from the waist up. I see this from the waist down. From the waist down, right? The one is Hashmal and Ish, and the other one is Mareh Ish v'nogah and a glow. Now, Kemareh, you know what that is? So he tells you want it. He's now telling you about his prophetic vision. This is the culmination of telling it to you after he's telling you about it, right? So he says, that vision that I just described, from the waist up there. You know what it's like? It's kimareh hakeshet asher yeh ba'anan. It's like the rainbow that you see in the cloud, b'yom hageshem, on the day of the rain, the flood. Ken mareh hanoga, so is the vision of the glow. Sabib hu mareh sabib hu mareh demut kibot Adonai. It's the vision of the demut, of the, how do you say demut in English? Image of the glory of God. And I saw it. I pulled out panai and I fell down. So he's telling you, boom, that's when it hit. That's when I got the Nevuah. He's telling you word for word what his prophetic experience was like. And he says, the best way to explain it to you, think of the thing in the rain and the keshet. Of course, that's the opening to the Noah story. And God speaks to him. Ben Adam, Amod Alecha, stand on your feet, get up, right? Take a stand. I'm going to talk to you. And the spirit came in me, and it made me stand on my feet. And I heard him talking to me, right? And he tells me, Ben Adam, I'm saying, you know what these words mean. El goyim hamoredim, to the nations, right? They're rebellious. Asher mardu bi, that they rebelled against me. Hema ve'abotam kash ubi ad etzem hayom hazeh, till this very day. You know, he asks the student of Yirmiyah, right? Prophetic. Ve'habanim kasher panim. They're kasher orif, right? They're kasher panim. Ve'hazik ve'hizkeleb, and stubborn-hearted, right? And he shall send you. And tell them. The Mary's the house of Mary, right? Wait, watch this. Don't be afraid. Sound familiar? And from the words, you're sitting with a bunch of scorpions. You hear? Talking about Jews. Don't be afraid and don't be dismayed. They're a house of rebellion. Al tehi meri kebet hameri petzeh pika primach ve'echol et asher anitil lecha, and eat what I'm giving you. And I saw v'hine yad shaluha, I saw a hand outstretched, Eli v'hine bo megillat sefer, and there was a scroll in the hand. Vayefros otah, and he opened the scroll. Lefanai v'hi ketubah panim ve'achor. Sound familiar? Front and back. The katuba there, kanim, the hege, dirges and laments were written on it. Wait. The Yomad Alai Ben Adam, et asher timsa echol, what you find, eat it, right? Echol et hamigillah, eat the book. What do you call it? How do you say internalize it? Internalize it, right? That's how you say internalize. Velech dabel beit Yisrael, and go speak to Israel. Va'aftahti, and I opened my mouth. Va'yachileni tamigillah sort. You know what prophecy is like, and I ate it. I what is the word you used? I internalized it. Remember, like Ben Adam, bitnecha ta'achel umeecha timaleh. Your stomach and your insides fill up. Et hamigillah hazot asher nitun lecha va'ochela, and I ate it. And this is why I read all of this to you. Vatehi b'fi k'dvash lematok, and it was like sweaty, like honey. That was so sweet. He's telling you that when he got his first nevuah, he finished the description. He says, "You know what it was like when I incorporated it? It was unbelievable." That's what he's telling you. He's going like this. He's telling you it was unbelievable. He's giving you on a silver platter his first vision, and he's using metaphor because how could you describe what it's like to communicate with God? He says, but when I internalized it, so he's giving you a lot of key things to understand what it means that it was sweet like honey. He was Gan Eden. He was floating on air when it happened, because what the impact of that spirit coming into him had a tremendous, and then of course it's going to go on to talk, right? Did you find that a little interesting what I just said?
Wow.
No one knows that, but I just told you. No one knows you don't know how to read it like that. You have to learn how to read it like that. You have to learn to appreciate what that prophetic experience is. And then you won't go crazy saying what are the hayot. He's telling you things about his vision. You have to decipher them. They're not easy to decipher a prophetic vision. Morris, you'll do a lot of work on that. All right. Yeah, he said, yeah. All right. It was a pleasure I hope you enjoyed.
Very much. Thank you so much, Ronnie. Thank you so much.
Morris, if I should feel better, Morris, from your cold. Love you. Okay. Love you. It's good to see you, Rabbi. It's a pleasure.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you so much.